Hello. So, before getting into the episode, couple things you should be aware of. This was recorded 21st November 2023. I originally intended for this episode to be released when I was attending it for it to be released, along with other episodes I recorded with other guests prior. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I just realized, and this is not a plug by the way, I after a long while, I came back to check up on Matchmaker.fm profile for my podcast, and saw they have introduced a rating system. And out of the ratings I've gotten so far, it's very positive. I'm very proud of myself for that. One of those reviews was from the guest who you will start to hear in this episode. And she said that she has not seen that the episode that we did together has been released yet. So I went back to see if that episode has been released, and to my surprise, it didn't get released. I'm so glad I did check up on that, because if I didn't, oh man, wouldn't that be a disaster? However, mistakes happen. There is a lot of things for me to learn from this, and I'm so glad that I checked up to see if there's anything missing right now rather than later. So yeah, with that being said, let's get on to the episode. Hello, welcome to the Alone Show. I'm your host, John Malone. In this episode, don't have regulars, because reasons, I guess. As for our guest, she is from Melbourne, Australia. She's an author, speaker, publisher, and social visionary. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Andrea Putting.
Hello, how are you?
Great.
Great to be here.
Me too. So, how's life?
Very busy with all those things that I've got on.
Ah, very good. Have you been up to much recently?
Yes, well, at the moment, I'm very busy organising Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony. So that keeps me busy at this time of year, which is at the moment November, and Chocolate and Coffee Days in December on the 15th. So I'm very busy getting that organised and up and going, as well as keeping everything else on track. So life is quite interesting at the moment.
Oh, okay, very good. So, what is it you mainly do for a living?
Or my main focus is, if I was to put it into one word, it would be story sharing. So I have my books that I'm focused on a lot, which is getting that story out there. And they're about finding the the purpose that lights up your life or your business, and doing that through social mission, through how you can make an impact on the world that's not related to business, but helps the community, that helps to make our lives better and make the world the way that we want it to be. So I have a big focus on that in my world, and that is also wrapped up in publishing. So through the my book's Compassionate Purpose, Compassionate Prosperity, that's a lot about people sharing their stories and finding that purpose. So publishing is also about people sharing their stories and getting those into the world. So they're my two main focuses on life.
Ah, okay, nice. How long have you been doing that for?
Mm. So the whole journey with that started, trying to find a starting point. You kind of go to it, oh, this is my starting point. And then you go, oh, well, reality is that your stories build on each other, and they build and build on each other. So which story do you want to go back to? But the main one I go back to with this is when I started compassion with Chocolate and Coffee Day, when I started that, because that had begun with an event that happened in Australia. In Sydney, there was a siege in a chocolate cafe where a gunman who was a Muslim, waving an ISIS flag, went in there and took people hostage. And the sad reality at the end of that was that 2 innocent hostages and the gunman were left dead. And the result of that wasn't that people had an outpouring of hate on the Muslims. They had an outpouring of love towards the Muslims. They accepted them. They sent out a message on social media. 150,000 people flooded social media with the hashtag, I will ride with you. So they were offering to ride the train, the bus, and the ferry with Muslims to make sure that they arrived safely to their destination. So 12 months later, I'm going, well, why aren't we still doing this? Why aren't we getting this message out into the world? What is it why do we wait till there's tragedy before we tell people we want to live in a world where people are loved and accepted for who they are? And so that's when I started Chocolate and Coffee Day for Religious Harmony 8 years ago. And from that, at the time, I'd been looking for something along the lines of why are people not engaged in business, which is why I say my story goes back further. Why aren't people engaged in the workplace? Why aren't people happy working? And I was looking for this answer. And then after I had started Chocolate and Coffee Day, it was like, well, this has been such a big thing in my personal life on the way that I think about myself, the way I feel about what I do. Is this the answer? So I started to explore what it meant to be involved in social mission. So that became a podcast, Social Mission Revolution, where I spoke to people in business and for individuals who are involved in social mission, and to seek out what it was that it meant to them. What were their stories? How did it change their lives? So after I had done quite a number of podcasts, I started writing a book on it. Of course, I'd done a lot of research as well in the background about it. So I did a lot of research on that to find what it is that makes that difference in our lives. And the things that I found, I just had to write about so that I could share them more with the world. And I think that sums up pretty much where that all comes from. And then because I was writing 3 books at once, then I started publishing. And then now people ask me to help them publish their books.
Nice. Fabulous. So, are there any more books you planning on publishing at some point in the future?
Yes, I will be publishing more books of my own. I'm publishing other people's books at the moment, but when my own books, yeah, there's other books that I want to work on with this topic of compassionate purpose. So the community aspects of that, the communication, the connections, all those kind of things that are important for people to be able to come together and share their stories and to build on those, to work on how we can use what we've learnt from our stories to create a better life for ourselves and our families and our communities. So I do intend to write a lot more books, and I hope to get started on those next year. And I think that they will be a lovely continuation of the theme of compassionate purpose.
Sweet. Where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
20 years from now. Well, I'm no spring chicken. And so a lot of people would say that in 20 years' time, I might be retired, sitting back and waiting for the end of my life, but I won't be. I believe I'll still be sharing this message. I will still be writing. I will still be speaking and hopefully traveling the world in sharing a message that's important to my heart. I don't think retirement is anything that I will be contemplating anytime soon. My husband is, but not for me. So I just hope that I'll be keeping on going. So working on maintaining a life that is fulfilling for me and helping my communities wherever they may be at the time.
Nice. Very good. If you were given 500 acres of land, what would you use that land for?
500 acres of land. Well, that would depend on the land, because if that's 500 acres of pristine bushland, then, or forest, whatever word you want to use, then I would, of course, it would have to be maintained as that, as the animal sanctuary, as the beautiful sanctuary that it is. If it was 500 acres of desert, well, that's a whole other story. There's not much you can do with 500 acres of desert. But if it was 500 acres of, say, farmland, then there would be opportunities for community endeavours to happen on it. Then that's what I would be doing, um, creating sanctuaries for people and animals to share, I would think, and retreats for people to be able to connect in with their who they really are, to be able to come together in a community, share their stories, and connect deeper with what their personal purpose is, and also with the collective purpose of where they can work together as a collaborative working to go where their heart's desire takes them to.
Nice. What should they teach in high school, but they don't?
There's a lot of things they don't teach in high school. A lot of what they teach in high school, from my memory, it's a long time since I've been in high school, would be about this materialistic mindset that we've had for a very long time, about how you get one job and you work at it and you make money, and that's your direction in life. Whereas connecting in with who you are on an individual level, so that individual stuff does not happen. It's very much about the collective. Now, while I can talk about community and working together as a collaborative situation, which is something that I absolutely love and I am committed to making happen, unless we respect the individual of who they are, it doesn't work properly, because what we all have individually to bring to the table is so important. So what they I don't think they teach is connecting in with those individual differences and embracing them, rather than trying to get everyone along the same page to do the same thing. I think that's where a lot of young people become unstuck with education. So I'd really like to see high schools just respecting the individuality of a student and understanding that they all have different ways of looking at things, different ways of learning, different ways of exploring, and really finding ways that they can be true to who they are.
Yes, absolutely. What is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Well, I have some of my own. Let me see. I've got one here. If I can just. Here we go. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. And that's from the book The Prophet by Cahill Gibran. Because I think that was really important, because it's only when we really truly give of ourselves that it's meaningful.
Yes, absolutely. What is the best way to start the morning?
So for me, starting the morning, I love to take a really slow morning. And I have at times, I've tried different things. I've often gone out for walks or for runs. But at the moment, for me, what's most important for me is to take some time. I'm not going to say meditation. For some people, it's meditation, but I am not one who spends a lot of time in meditation. It doesn't work that way for me. But in spiritual reflection, to take time to do some reading, some contemplation on what I'm reading is really important to me. So if I was to summarize that, it would be connecting with the spirit. And that spirit is the spirit within, or however you want to look at that. But to me, that's the most important way to start the day.
Ah, of course. If someone wrote a book about you, what do you think its title would be?
Title for me? I've often thought that if I had a theme song, it would probably be "You've Got a Friend." So maybe that would be it. Or the chocolate and coffee lady. A lot of people call me the chocolate and coffee lady because I manage to bring chocolate and coffee into everything that I do. So it might be either "You've Got a Friend" or the chocolate and coffee lady.
Ah, all right then. What was the longest trip you have been on?
The longest trip I have been on would be I went to Europe 10 years ago. I've been to Europe a couple of times, but the longest one was we went to Europe. So from Australia to get to England is like a 24 plus hour trip, depending on stopovers, etc. So that's a really long flight to start with. But we were there for our first trip there, we were away for 7 weeks. So that was the longest for me. So we toured across Europe, England and through Europe, and we went on a bus trip, which was 3 weeks, which is a very long bus trip, but it was great. We went and saw different places in Europe. And then we were able to no, we actually started that time with a visit to Estonia, which is where my grandfather came from. So that was lovely to go to the small island where he came from and feel into the spirit of who he was. So that was really a special time for us.
All right then. Very good. Would you rather not be able to open closed doors or not be able to close open doors?
Oh, I that's an interesting question. I think I need to open doors. I need to be able to go through open doors. Well, if the other doors stay open, well, that's fine. But I need to be able to go through new doors to give me new opportunities and to open my mind and my perspective to new ways. So if that means that other doors are open, well, so be it.
Ah, yes, of course. Couldn't agree more. If you could have a never-ending candle that smelled like anything you wanted, what fragrance would you want it to be?
A never-ending candle. Yeah, there's a few fragrances that come into my mind. But the one that makes me feel most at home and most comforted, most inspired, I think would have to be eucalyptus because that smells like home to me. So wherever I am, if I can have that eucalyptus smell, it just takes me into that space of our native bushland that I love. if I close my eyes, then I can feel like I'm out in the bush. I can be exploring the bush, seeing the animals or whatever it is. I think that really would keep me at peace for the rest of my life. I could say something like chocolate, couldn't I? But no, I think eucalyptus would do it.
Nice. What takes a lot of time to master, but it is definitely worth it?
Life. I don't think we ever master life. I feel like it's a never-ending journey trying to master ourselves in life. We're trying to constantly improve ourselves, trying to find the better way of living for ourselves. So I think that's what it is, because we never master it, but we keep on trying to master it. So it's the most worthwhile thing for us to keep trying to improve ourselves, to be a better version of ourselves, to keep working at what is it that I can learn and develop of myself next.
Yes, absolutely. What is the best way to travel?
Now, that's an interesting one, because I've traveled, I could say first class on a plane. I absolutely love going first class on a plane. I've only done it on one trip. But I think the way that I've enjoyed traveling the most has been on the train, because I've been on trains, for example, through Europe, and we were able to kind of do it's a slow journey, but you can get up and move around. You get to see the scenery. You can really just take it all in. But it's got to be a train that's got a good dining car as well, I think. But yeah, I think if you were to give me only one form of transport, I think we enjoy train travel the most because of that freedom of movement while you're there, so you can be comfortable. So, like you're in a bus on a coach trip, you kind of it's great, you can see things and the seats might be comfortable, but you can't get up and move around and it's not so good. But a train, it just kind of has that relaxed feeling about it.
Yes, indeed. If you can get an exotic pet, what would it be?
An exotic pet.
Yes.
Ah. Well, I have a sulphur-crested cockatoo, which people outside of Australia would think was exotic, but extremely common bird here. So that's not really exotic to me. An exotic pet, I've always liked lions, so maybe a lion, but I can't imagine that. I don't want to keep them cooped up, so
Okay,
yeah.
nice. Have you heard of a drink called banana friche?
No, I haven't.
That's alright, I get that a lot.
What is it?
Well, it is like it's a milkshake slash smoothie kind of drink. It has all the tingly sensations in the world. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Sounds good.
yes, it sure does. Would you rather never age physically or never age mentally?
Ah, that's a really tough question. I think as hard as it is, you kind of think, well, I'd like to keep looking useful but I would have to choose mentally, because I'm in a situation right now where I've had to put my mother in aged care because her mental capacity isn't as good as it used to be. She's still quite bright and she's okay. But in doing that, I've seen a lot of other people in the home who have lost their mental capacity. Although I hopefully that's not something that we necessarily have to do, and that's not necessarily about aging, is it? But I'd like to be able to keep my mental capacity until the end of my life. So that would, I think that's what keeps us active. That's what keeps us being a useful part of society. So I would really like to keep that. Thank you.
Fair enough. I ditto to that. If your life was a meal, what kind of meal would it be?
It would be one that was multicolored, incorporated a lot of different flavors and textures. And I'm trying to think of what that would be. It would be a high quality meal. As to actually what that would be, I don't know, but I can just see that it's got a lot of different flavors, a lot of different textures on the one plate. So it's kind of like a smorgasbord on one plate. Although a smorgasbord generally is not my type of thing, but maybe it is a smorgasbord. My life is like that because I do always have a lot of different things on my plate, so which are full of different flavors and textures. So I'm going to have a smorgasbord.
Very good. Would you rather speak all languages or talk to animals?
Oh, I'd like to talk to animals, but I think it would be really useful to be able to speak a whole lot of different languages. I have tried to learn a couple of languages in my life. I tried to learn Estonian, and that's the hardest language for an English speaker to learn. Really difficult language to learn, and to be able to actually speak other people's languages would be amazing. We're fortunate as English speakers that the rest of the world is all learning English, but that kind of narrows our field a lot. It would be lovely to be able to communicate with people of all nations in their
Yes,
language.
indeed. What flavor of ice cream do you wish existed?
Gee, what flavour ice cream? Well, I want one that's dairy-free, sugar-free, nasty-free, maybe calorie-free. All the
Oh,
ice creams that I like, there's some that I really like that do exist. Things like caramel and fruits and things. I think all my flavors are pretty much covered in the ice cream field.
yes, absolutely. What is your favorite life hack?
My favorite life hack
Yes,
is volunteering. Volunteering gives us the greatest sense of fulfillment in life. And there is research that shows that altruism is as pleasurable to the brain as having sex. So I think if we can all just give of ourselves a little bit more, then the world will be a better place.
yes, indeed. Would you rather be able to breathe underwater or have the agility of a cat?
I'm not big on the water. I'm not a water person, so I'm going to have the abilities of a cat, please. Cats are pretty
Right.
awesome. They have some pretty clever things that they can do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What fictional item do you wish existed that you could own in real life?
What I want is to be able to have a transporter like in Star Trek, where I can just get in it and transport to anywhere in the world at a mere thought. That would be an amazing and powerful thing to be able to do, because there's so many times that I could use that. in everyday life. Like we could be sitting here together having our conversation.
Ooh, yes, that'd be interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you on, Andrea, talking about your work as a social visionary and everything along those lines. It's been great.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
You're welcome. And until next time, stay tuned for more.